think I always start with all right. I kind of caught myself saying it. All right, yet another one. That's usually what I say, I think. And then I say the day. And then I say, I wonder what I'll draw. Usually that's what comes out of my mouth. But yeah, I was thinking about workshops and such. If I should go to any next year. I mean, obviously I will go to THU because I got a free ticket, which is cool. Looking forward to that actually. I just need to book stuff, and I haven't talked to the IFCC people. I don't know if people are going yet. It's in May, so I don't know. Hey Atsuki, how's it going? Good morning. Good morning. So today we're gonna do your topics. Hey Bruno Romanos. You can sound very Russian. You know, like the Romanovs. The gold egg people. Aren't they the Romanovs? Hey Nereda. Miguel. What's up? How's it going? Topic suggestions, please. Any suggestions is good to go. Romanov. Bruno Romanos. Miguel, that's the last Tsar, yeah, exactly. Ghost members, ahoy! Demon Queen, ooh, I like it. Cursed Captain, I like it even more. Hey Zelid, how's it going? What's up? Crimson Space Moth. Ooh, that's fascinating. Fight Milk. How's it going? Techno Barbarian. Man, you guys are knocking it out the park. So we've got Demon Queen, Cursed Captain, Crimson Space Moth, and Techno Barbarian. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any other topic suggestions? There's room for 2 more. I think I can. Number 5, I can add. It is Grilla Dolphin Eater. That's number 5 because I know both will say that. And then there is room for 1 more. Cyber Cannibal. Ooh, that's cool. All right, so we got all 6. Let's roll the dice. I will be happy with any of the options. How's it looking? Well, that it is kind of broken. 1 second. It has to look correct, right? Oh Jesus, what are you doing? You are broken. Yeah, that feels good. All right. Hey, Spirit Dude, how's it going? Welcome. Welcome to the fray. And it's number 5. It is Captain Boss. Captain Boss, you got the topic even without saying it because I said it for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, Captain Boss. Yes, Captain Boss. It is Grilla, the Dolphin Eater. I wrote it in your absence. That is the topic you wanted, right? Miguel, yeah, I was like, hey, psst, magic dice, roll it in my favor. All right, Gria the dolphin eater. All right. All right. Cool. So I'm going to take the opportunity to quickly explain positioning of legs and bodies. Like martial arts, for example, they say that you should put majority of the weight on the back foot to be able to generate the power. The idea is 70% on the back leg, 30% of your weight on the front leg. As an example, like in motion, right? If you want to have motion. And a lot of people, they put the feet on the same line, which means we are horizontal and perpendicular, or we are with the horizon line, right? Which breaks the illusion of depth. Hey, Cosmoverse, French, what's up? So what you always have to consider, which is a very obvious helper, is like if you place the body, and here's the horizon line where we're looking, right? I'm going to try to draw and explain at the same time. So Gria, in my mind, is like a mole rat, like the guy, you know, that does the hand thing in Pan's Labyrinth, mixed with a mole rat. No problem. Yeah, no problem, boss. No problem at all. So when you put down your feet, we could put them flat down, right? Here's the heel or the center of the mass. Then they would go into perspective to that point, right? To the horizon line. But what if he has a different weight, distribution of weight, right? So then you need to shift the weight according to the horizon line. A lot of people put the feet like that, and then we are flat with the feet and the heel. All volumes get nerfed, meaning you reduce the impact of it. So you always have to consider perspective line. Captain Boss. You can put the headphones on and hoodie up and a t-shirt over the monitor, so you're like in a cocoon with a note on the back that says "Be back in 30." Zealin means you and me. Yes. So that's one thing that you can Zealin and others, those who make the mistake, is that always beware of the placement of the feet, but not only the placement, but the pose and the center of mass. Center of mass you can't really calculate, right? Because you have to take perspective into consideration. But the center of mass is approximately the, you know, if you have a shape there and a shape there, because this is overhanging further out from this point, the center of mass won't be there. It will be, you know, like somewhere there. So you have to take those things in consideration when you're trying to calculate center of mass. And so you take the center of mass, meaning like what's the gravitational pull point in the pose straight down, and then how are the feet placed, or how's the pose accordance to you know, you have to take weight and are they in motion in consideration. So anything that's in motion is always the center point is always moved, because they're propelling their form, the weight forward. Nereda, yeah, I love the selection of those. So whenever a character is stationary, there's always easier to calculate center of mass. But you should always think of feet and things in their, or legs and so on, in their basic geometrical shape. You don't need to draw them, but you need to see them in that way, because when you picture them in basic geometrical shapes, you know, like on the leg, if you would think a bit like a box system, you know, like that. Where's the feet, and the feet is split into different systems, more or less. And then you can start like mapping out the perspective of that basic boxes and shapes, and then start realizing, okay, if the shape is, you know, on perspective like that, does the pose, is he very squared with the feet, or is the one feet further back, and things like that. And then another problem that a lot of people make the mistake about is rotation of the knee, or knee direction. Knee direction is it, if you now you're sitting, right? If you move your knee out and in, and think about your hip rotation as you're moving the knee is not moving. The thigh, the point where the thigh meets the hip, is rotating. Knee is only one direction, it's forward and backwards. So you can only rotate the foot on the socket. I mean, you could rotate a little bit with the knee with help from the hip, but the most rotation is at the ankle, not the knee, because the knee is more or less just one direction. So that problem a lot of people make when they make, let's say, a cowboy stance, you know, where the feet are pointing out like that. The knees are they're perpendicular to the hip, and then the feet are pointing outwards, which means that, you know, there's no rotation in the knee, and the knee can't rotate, so it has to be rotated at the hip. So there's a lot of mistakes with that when you see anatomy, especially when the pose is dynamic, or they're trying to be dynamic, but they're comfortable and practice drawing stiff poses. And it usually results in a strange mishmash of shapes and rotations that doesn't correlate to the pose. I mentioned before about posing and so on, but I thought today I'd make it a subject. Hey Dame Deviant, how's it going? And then of course when you break down the direction and rotation of these basic geometrical shapes, let's say the legs, right? You get the perspective, and you also can light it accordingly a lot easier. But basically you should practice thinking about the pose. You know, how do you stand if you're swinging, or how do you stand if you're walking or sneaking or crouching? You know, what joint goes where? You know, are you shifting your hip? You know, do you rotate your hip when you lean down or rotate down? And there's many different ways of, let's say, kneeling, and in whatever way you choose to depict the kneeling, what happens to the body. And then when you at least figured out how are they sitting, then you can start sketching out
um, you know, what's the rotation, and are you correct in the way you described it?
And one of the practices,
which we've done on the stream, is taking one pose and rotating it in your mind. So the idea behind that practice isn't to torture you, yeah, but a little bit. But the general idea is to practice
three-dimensional thinking. And
because, well, let's say you're making in a difficult pose that you're going to pose your character or raw body in, or whatever it is you choose, if you can't visualize it and understand it, you can't pinpoint what you're doing as a mistake. Like if I would draw this pose more from the front, the idea of the pose is that he stands really, really far apart with his legs and hunched over. So in my mind, I try to visualize what that does to the body. What does it do to the knees? He more or less is locking the knees. So he has very straight legs forward. Hey, good morning, frogs. Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good practice to do. But with anything in life, frogs, the more you do it, the better you get at it. That is sadly also involves negative habits. Hey, Whipping J, how's it going? I like your keyboard button. Is that a keyboard warrior? No. All right, it's some sort of charity icon. That's cool. Good luck, have fun, pledge. Interesting. So the same goes for, let's say, posing, by the way. When you pose something and there is asymmetrical positioning in the arm, you also have to consider, like, what is it doing with the body, the pose? Where is the weight being shifted to? And I personally have done this mistake many times, but with a dynamic pose, you try to kind of mimic each side to each other. But like I can push one shoulder forward without pushing the other shoulder forward. You know, like I can do this while this shoulder is straight. But in your mind, you would go like, oh, you know, what if there's rotation and one is pulled further, and what does that do to the body and perspective and all these things? And that's where someone that's great with posing stands out, because they observed and understand reality. So Froax, for example, you're saying that you're trying to take a sketchbook with you and draw from life a lot. I think that's really good, because that's real life dynamic situations. Hey Kirill, welcome back. Glad to see you here. How's the job hunt going? Have you landed a gig? I hope you solved your economical situation. Last time we spoke a while back, you had to quit, I think. You finally got something. That's fantastic. Please do tell if you don't mind, or if you don't want to jinx it. But that's great news. I'm very, very pleased to hear that you have
a job. Small company in Kiev. Still, it's another tick in the box, right? Lucky dub. Yeah, this is me when I'm hungry. Hungry and angry all at the same time. My daughter, she gets hangry a lot. You spent a month on art tests, done 3 of them, but only 1 got paid. Kirilo, that's interesting. We also actually do art tests for our artists, just to test them in terms of a challenge, but we don't use the work at all. So we more or less ask them if they are willing to do another portfolio piece for them on or we set up a scenario, but they own all the rights and they can show it, or it's nothing connected to a client. We are just interested in seeing if they can perform in a specific field that they haven't showcased in their portfolio, because our company need dynamic artists. So we always try to pick a hole in their work and then go, would you mind doing this? Because we're going to be doing it, this is going to be one of the genres or whatever that might fall into your lap as at working there. Cheers, Lucky. And 2 were rejected. Oh. So that's great, Kirill. That's great. I hope the pay is decent and that you don't need to sweat and spread yourself thin. Yeah, I mean, art tests, you have to do art tests, sadly. But I find doing art tests for companies where they use your work is a little bit too cheeky. It's like, oh, thanks for the free work. We're not going to use you, by the way, but we're going to use the work. That's a little bit, for me, I find it to be like foul play. So that's why I always make sure to tell, if they choose to do art tests for us, that after the fact they're free to do whatever they want with it. We don't own it. We don't have any rights to whatever they produce. We haven't had anyone decline doing an art test, especially because they can put it on their social media if they want to. Oh, here's something I did, as it's finished, because we're not going to use it. We just want to see skill. Froax, it's a faux
real life client test or client brief, more or less. Um, Froax, yeah, most of the cases that's what a lot of companies do. They're like, they have you sign stuff, you do the art test, and then regardless of how well you do, they keep the rights to use that work that you did for the art test, right? So they can use it for clients and so on. But we don't do that. First of all, because we don't like the idea of giving someone our business before they are on board. And secondly, we don't like the idea of giving them our business before they are on board for the reason of we want to take care of them. And we don't cheat people. So that's why we make up an art test to test the art skills that they have, rather than getting free work. And we don't need someone to do their job for free. We want to have someone that can contribute to the studio, not scam someone. Frogs, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we do art tests as a studio a lot as well, because they wanna sample us, they wanna help us. Usually, what big companies do when they have an outsourcing pool of different studios, they send out the same brief to a few studios. They pay for the work, obviously, for this one singular test, right? The one singular slice of the pie, and each studio sends their work in, and they all get paid, but the winning studio gets the rest of the contract, right? So that's quite a common practice, but they pay, and they just want to also use the fact that they are a part of this outsourcing pool due to their publisher, so that they can outsource and quote unquote fish results. And that's completely fair. It's completely fair. I mean, if you do a good job, of course you should get the contract. But using people who want to get into the industry or getting hired as some sort of free labor is kind of shitty, and we don't do that. Frenchy, that's a cool. I don't think it's. I think animation industry has a lot of union. I don't think concept art has a lot of union. Frenchy, Kirill, he said that earlier in the chat. He's in Kiev, in Ukraine. Kirill. Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a gray border, isn't it? Like, especially if you're a mobile studio or a game studio that are international. you know. It's really weird, this kind of dynamics of the industry, which means you can also encounter a lot of dodgy people, unfortunately, and a lot of people that can slip through the loopholes. But that's why it's also important that we share when we get screwed over, and we burn this person that screwed us over as much as we can, so that as many people as possible stays away from their bad practices, because we don't have any other means of protecting ourselves other than community. Kirill, right? So you are your own company, and they hire you like that. Froax, absolutely, absolutely, they do. There is many documentaries about it, actually. It's called crunch culture. And what that means is that they overwork their artists with too big of a promises, in order to be able to ship the game on time. More and more people are frowning upon the idea of crunch in studios. In our studio, we don't have crunch. We don't have overtime unless you want to. It's fully optional, and no one gets penalized for it. But I think day to day, no one does overtime because we have a high pace at work instead. So instead of you just kind of rolling your fingers in the studio, you go to the studio and do your work, and then you go home without need of overtime. You know. Froax, absolutely, in that sense that you get to work on big titles with a lot of weight. Usually, these big companies, let's say like Riot or Blizzard, the pay is extremely good. You get all possible benefits. So it's not like you're completely screwed over, but they do require you to crunch, aka overtime. Usually also it's unpaid overtime. And usually they set the goals with crunch in mind, because they don't consider that when they plan for the next title. They plan for the next title in, how long did it take us last time? And they don't look at overtime. So they just go, 2 years and 5 months, cool. Let's aim for that. But everyone always have bigger plans and grander ideas. So next time you go the full length, you still go, 2 years and 5 months, but the scope is significantly larger. But no one thinks about that. No one cares. And they just crunch. That's usually what happens. Or they get pushed by their publisher saying, hey, we need it by the end of this period because it needs to be out, because it is the end of the physical year or whatever, you know. So then the studio go, but it's not finished. But the publisher goes, well, we don't care. Release it. That has happened a few times in my career when I was working full time. We got the kind of orders like you gotta ship this now. You have 2 months, and the game wasn't finished. But the publisher said, well, we don't care. It has to be out the door that day. So what the studio had to do was they gathered a bug list, as in what problems did the game have. And when they got the bug list, they looked at all the like thousands and thousands of bugs, and then they went, which bugs stops the game from working? And then they fixed those. Then the rest was like, well, we don't have time. Publisher wants it out the door. So in the end, what happened was, like, yes, the publisher got to release their game. They made X amount of money, but the game was no success. The game got mediocre score because it was riddled with bugs and unfinished. But because the publisher could squeeze it into that fiscal year, they didn't care. They could write it off, But the gamers were like, oh, shit game, blah, blah, blah. And the developers were like, yeah, we know. Nothing we can do. Dad told us to send it. Hey, Geno Lab, how's it going? Good morning. Good evening. Frohux, yeah, more or less. Yeah, so this Gria the Dolphin Eater, fun little painting. Stream is over. We have to raid someone because I need to get back to work. But let's find someone to raid. Looking at who's online on my list, and it doesn't look good. Oh, that looks cool. Okay, let's raid that guy. What was his name? Did I remember that correctly? We're gonna raid Bob Rokatansky. Don't know. He's kind of inky style. Looks cool. Exactly, Kirill. Captain Boss, where's the dolphin? It's in the belly. Boris Mitkov. I don't have Boris on my friends list. Anyways, have a good evening, everyone. Have a great day. Good night. See you guys tomorrow morning. Let's do the outro, then raid. Otherwise, see you tomorrow. Toodles.